Okay, everyone, so we are in the 9-9 portal. We have also passed through the eclipse, and so I thought I would start us with a reading here. So I'm going to put here 4 cards, and I've just taken time to go over them and to think about them. So think about which set of cards you want to use. We have 1, 2, 3, and 4. So again, 1, 2, 3, and 4. So again, we'll start with our first set of cards. So let's start with our first set. So I'm gonna put this set here. I'm just gonna move these out of the way. So here we are. I'm gonna pull up our first. So this is here. So I like to give each card a position. So our first position is that of the soul. So we have the soul. And then here we have the queen. The queen to me represents, or this card is going to represent like the soul, or sorry, the emotions. And then we have how these relate to the shadow of this, the 5 of Wands, and we have the 9 of Wands. So move these over here. So as we go through this, so I like to think of tarot as an oracle, as not only divination, but also reflection, okay? So we're gonna start with the blood moon is in Pisces. So here we have the totemic puma, power awakening. Let me put it in the camera. So we have power awakening, and this is discussing how this card, the energy here is about fierce sovereignty. So under the Pisces blood moon, we can think about this representing the soul remembering its instinct, not the fantasy or illusion of Pisces, because when we think about Pisces is very psychic, okay? But it's the remembering your instinct. It's a very psychic instinct of your raw force, your survival. So here you see the butterfly. So there's a transformation of you trusting your instincts. Okay? And so the inner archetype and emotion is the queen. And so we have the queen, and she's going to represent, this energy of the queen with this card. We're getting the eclipse awakens the archetype of the sovereign feminine. So this, regardless of you being a man or a woman, the sovereign feminine, what does that mean? The sovereign feminine, when we look at the queen card here, is about dignity. It's about turning grief into, that crown energy. When we think about the crown chakra, we see the snake. The snake represents wisdom, alchemical wisdom. And the snake is carrying a jewel. That jewel can be knowledge, maybe greater knowledge. Here we see a lotus petal, we see a lotus flower. So you're rising up into your instincts, and part of your instincts is guided by that sovereign feminine energy, the divine, the sovereign feminine. There's emotional clarity of ruling oneself that is guided by the soul, which is the Puma energy. So your soul is remembering its instinct, it's remembering its power, and that is guided through the sovereign feminine. Remember the feminine, yin and yang, this life force energy, emotional clarity, no longer being ruled by illusion. There's a grief turns into a sobering dignity. And so then here we have the King of Swords, the Five of Wands, and the Nine of Wands. So when we think about, for instance, the Five of Wands, okay, they're being scattered energy, inner conflict, projection. The blood moon pulls out the chaos so that it can be seen. You see through the chaos, and so the King of Swords is a discernment. It's the clear thought. It's the cutting away of the illusion. And then the Nine of Wands, there's endurance. You know, you might feel tested, but you've carried yourself through fires before. And so in this eclipse corridor, we have the September 7th through the 27th. This spread is saying, don't collapse under the chaos. We see the chaos here. Don't collapse under the chaos. The puma is the king of instincts, and the king's sword. So these two are coming together to tell us your instincts and your discernment will guide you. It's about letting your heart be the drumbeat. You don't have to answer to every battle cry. Wait for the fire. Wait for the fire within you is what you guard, and you let that act as your discernment and the divine, the serpent, the wisdom. You allow that to guide you. So there's a greater instinct. There's a greater sovereignty within you. You know, to dissolve the chaos within you. You're dissolving the chaos within you. So this might be something like writing what you're releasing. Burn or bury it with intention. And I mean a fierce intention, an intention that you can feel through your body. And then maybe with the 9-9 portal, there's a meditation with a focus on the chakra, the third eye chakra, which I forget if it's called, I forget, but it's always the Om. Think of Om. That is generally the sound that goes with the third eye chakra. So you think about how you have, it's Lam, Vam, Ram, Yam, Ham, Om, Om. Om is the sound that goes for the third eye chakra. So yeah, I think overall, your divine instincts are asking to come forth. Your divine knowing, understanding that the puma doesn't just, it waits. And sometimes the puma will wait for a long time before it goes after what it's gonna go after. So remember, I'm using the Earth Warriors deck. I'm using, I forget what this one is called. I think it's the Wild Unknown archetypes, and then this is the Witches Modern deck, and then the Great Unknown. So those are what I'm using, what I've been working with for a while. I don't exactly go off of the books themselves, but this is kind of they've been a guide in my journey. So. All right. So we shall move on. Okay. So now we'll get into group 2. So this is group 2. So here we have the soul's message. So this is a message from the soul. Remember, we have the soul, we have the inner archetype and emotions, and then we have deeper clarity here with these cards. It's kind of what I'm going to go with. So here we have Nana Baluku. So when we think of Nana Baluku, what we are seeing is Nana Baluku is the grandmother. She is the creatrix. You see this? So Nana Baluku is the creatrix. She's the supreme creative principle. She created in African mythology and cosmology. She has created the universe, and then she rested. And so here with her, we are seeing the intersection of rest and extraordinary creative power. And this is something that's repeated in numerous spiritual traditions from cultures around the world. When we think of Nana Baluku, what we are thinking about is how we can be inspirational innovators in various fields of disciplines, from say science, arts, literature. Okay. African spirituality often is based on this sort of holistic worldview, where no issue is one in one's life can be separate from the spiritual world. So this is a recognition of the divine and how the divine is really intimately involved and lovingly invested in the many aspects of our life, and how we begin to come into a greater, what do we say? How we become these innovators, these thinkers, these creators, the creatrix. This is creatrix energy. So creatrix energy is asking you to begin to create. In any field that you're working in, you have the power to be an innovator, to be brilliant in what you do, because it's also the understanding that like all the thoughts and ideas are not necessarily your own, but that they are guided by the divine. And so then we move into the stone. The inner archetype and emotion is the stone and the creator. So the stone and the creator under the Pisces blue moon. So under the Pisces blood moon, this is about no longer striving and dissolving endless labor, and know that rest itself is creation. So knowing that you're getting rest, knowing that through rest, the ideas come, instead of working yourself to the bone, instead of exhausting yourself by, the answers, when am I going to get the answers? Stepping back, resting, taking time to think. So so we have the stone card here. And when we think about the stone, the stone is about permanence, grounding, stability, while the creator is about fire, its raw generative force. And so together, these are revealing a sort of paradox. When we look at these two, we have a paradox. This is the in-between corridor. Creation comes not from frantic striving, but from being rooted, from being anchored, from resting, as Nana Baluku is saying. The divine feminine doesn't always just, like the divine masculine can sometimes, or the masculine can sometimes, it's trying to power its way through something. And so through grounding and through permanence, we create. Because we're rooted, we're anchored, we're still, we're resting. We're giving the ideas time, we're giving the behaviors, we're giving our neurological system the time to come into greater knowing, to come into greater spaciousness through stillness, through grounding, through rest. So this is a time where maybe, you're focusing on things like rest, lemon balm tea, lavender tea, a little bit of bay leaf tea, focusing in on your nervous system and being more spiritually hygienic, mentally hygienic. One of the, like when I was watching a video by the Shaolin monk, he was talking about how you have to practice mental hygiene. So for some of you, this is really a time for you to be an innovator, for you to be a creative, and your creativity is coming through rest. It's coming through grounding. You know, you are the creator, you are the artist, you are the creatrix, which is so funny how this is the creatrix. And then this card came up, the creator. I love how the synchronicity of it. All right. So moving into the Eight of Pentacles can be our addiction to approving ourselves. So when we look at the shadow, there might be this addiction to proving ourselves through constant work. Sometimes, you know, in Western culture, we brag a lot about constantly being at work, constantly working ourselves. Oh, I'm so busy. Oh, I'm just so stressed out. Almost like it's a badge of honor. And so the Pisces dissolves the illusion that your worth equals your output. No. The blood moon whispers, creation is not your sweat. It is your stillness. It is your groundedness. It is understanding that the creatrix, Mother God, she is working through you. Sophia, Nana Boluku, Parvati, you know, the Devis, the divine mothers, the creatrix, the sovereign feminines are working through you, and you don't have to come up with all the ideas on your own. You know, it might be good for someone to get in touch with an Akashic record reading or learn how to read your own Akashic records. And so then we have the Two of Cups, and this is about sacred exchange. This is soul level harmony. So under this eclipse and under this Pisces blood moon, when we look at how the stone is about permanence, grounding, stability, and the creator is about fire, raw, generative force, the Two of Cups talks about, it's not about individual striving, you know, working yourself by constant output, but there is a mutual recognition. Maybe there is delegating tasks that are not yours to do, not getting involved in problems that are maybe not yours to figure out, having boundaries, understanding codependency, codependent behaviors, maybe with other people in your life. That if you're trying to elevate to the next level, get to the next space in your creation, in the things that you're trying to do, moving into forming boundaries. So with these eclipse, with this blood moon, it becomes, again, about stillness, about the strength of either asking for help and or setting boundaries in your partnerships, in your relationships, in your life. And so then the Four of Wands says that by doing all of that, of course, you know, it allows you to move away from exhaustion. You know, the stone here, Nana Boluku, you know, they're inviting harmony into your life. They're inviting sacred celebration into your life. You know, the 9-9 portal is going to clear up karmic illusions that creation is only through exhaustion. That only through exhaustion are you somehow gonna create, and that's just not the truth. Only through exhaustion are you gonna find a breakthrough, and that's just not true. And the Four of Wands is that clarity, the joy, the homecoming, the completion. It invites us to honor what has been built and to trust that rest itself will deliver harvest. It's the reminder that creativity flows from rootedness, from delegating, from asking yourself what's mine to deal with and to bear and what's not. So you don't prove, you embody. You know, the Eight of Pentacles, you know, this addiction to endless effort, to just constantly working ourselves. remember reciprocity. If it's not bringing some kind of reciprocity, should you be engaging in it? So that's group 2. So now we're moving into group 2. And so with group 2, so I'll put this over here. So with group 2, we have Iyana, vision. We have the self. So remember, we have what the soul is asking and trying to say, and what's trying to come forth from the soul, what the emotions and the archetypes are saying, and then greater clarification with these cards down here. Okay. So here we have the divine feminine. So this is about greater purpose awakening. So this is about the divine feminine. So this is, again, the sacred feminine, the sovereign feminine. You're moving deeper into your divine purpose. You're moving deeper into the understanding of your divine self, and your emotions are showing you, I know who I am. So this is a time for you to understand that you know who you are more than you might even think you know who you are. And so the self is the witness. The self doesn't get lost in conflict. Okay, and then when we look at these cards, we have the 5 of Wands, hollow victories, ego battles. You know, what is the ego doing? The 4 of Swords is about rest. It's about peace. It's about retreat. It's about using that as your strength. Knowing when to retreat, when to rest, when to say, you know what, my peace is greater than any of this, because again, I know myself. I know my purpose and purposes. I've witnessed myself in these situations, and I no longer have to act from a place of lack or scarcity mindset or fear. The divine feminine is no longer afraid. And the Queen of Wands is the embodiment. It's creative radiance. It's confidence. So let's get a little bit more into detail, especially with our blood moon. So Ayana is whispering the truth of your mission. She's pulling you out of fear, out of practicality, out of compromise. She's stripping down the illusions alongside the blood moon. So here, it reveals your soul's truth that maybe you've been hesitant to claim. Maybe you've been hesitant to claim your soul's truth. And then the eclipse, you know, the observer of self. The self is the prism. The self is that part of you, is the soul, is your soul. It's a part of you that's not judging, but witnessing all the facets of your experience. So all the facets of your experience, you know, during this eclipse, during this 9/9 portal, this is the part of you that can see the chaos without drowning in it. And you're able to see that through the 4 of Wands, through the retreat, the rest, the mental clarity. So it's about taking a step back from the battles of your ego. The self will show you the battles that you've been fighting in your ego. And those things fall away. And so then Ayana and the Queen, again, Ayana and the Queen, this is embodied charisma. This is creative fire. This is radiant leadership. This is dissolving conflict and restoring peace within yourself. It's your inner truth going from just being a truth that you think about to you being able to feel it in your body. So this might be a time for you to really get in touch with somatic practices, TRE, any sort of somatic practice that allows you to move into greater knowingness in your body. I like to say that I believe that the brain isn't the only part of your body that's doing any sort of thinking or remembering. Your entire body is an organ of remembering. Like if we're gonna look at like maybe a bio-spiritual a biochemical spiritual sort of, I don't know the right word, but your body is a tool of remembering. Your body is an organ of remember, and it is not just your brain that remembers things, but it's also your, it's your whole body. So this might be a time to get in touch with somatic practices, right? So the queen rises with the sunflower and the black cat. You can see here, you know, you getting in touch with your divine mystery. Your truth is really your power. So yeah, I think overall, this one really, this spread to me gives the energy that you come into deeper knowing. Like, it's more than just like an aha moment. It's a time where you've cleared out karmic cycles and you're like, I know who the hell I am. I know who I am more so today than I've ever known before. And so now moving forward, it's like being online with people who want to argue. It's like being online with people who want to argue. And instead of arguing with them, you're like, you know what? You're right. Or you might even just troll them back. You might just be like, okay, you know, like I was online the other day and a guy was like, oh my God, you're a witch. Oh, you're demonic. And I said, yes, I'm demonic. I've come to, you know, just playing into it. Like I'm no longer going, my ego was no longer triggered by the fact that this person, you know, made a judgment about me and we're on the internet, you know? So this is a time where like, you're so deep in your purpose, you're so deep in understanding who you are, that there are things that used to trigger you in the past that just no longer trigger you. There's no more triggers. There's no, you know, there's less triggers. There's less and less ego battles, you know, and that allows you to rest. That allows you to think. That allows you to move out of conflicts and these hollow arguments. You know, Pisces moon dissolves these false winds. So yeah, you coming into just greater knowing of who you are. And I mean, it's like one of the greatest gifts that we can ever get. You know, as we move through the annual Ouroboros, as one of my teachers would say, we move through the annual Ouroboros. I like how, you know, I love how these are circles, you know, where we go from root chakra to crown chakra back to root chakra. If you ever look at like Kundalini, Chrism, yoga, sort of like astrology almost. I would look up the Gnostic alchemist. She does a really good job of discussing this. So we're going to move on to our last set of cards. So this is group 3, and we're going to move on to 4. So now we're moving on to the group of cards 4. So we have Intikana, Child of Light. So we have Intikana, Child of Light. We have, this represents, so she's representing the soul's message. This is representing the emotions of you and the archetypal energy that might be at play. And then these are representing just greater clarity. So we have the 3 of Swords. We have the 8 of Swords. And we have the 2 of Wands. So overall, this is almost a very mental place. Like when I see swords, I'm seeing a lot of mental things going on, like sort of being trapped in one's thoughts. And those thoughts maybe are about past things that have happened. So first, this message of the soul. When we see the message of the soul, what we're seeing here is we're seeing Intikana is the divine child. So this is your inner child coming forward and awakening. Maybe you've been through some heartbreaks. Maybe you've been through some losses. And so the underworld this card is the inner emotions and archetype that shows that facing ordeals reveal your buried strength. And so there's some grief here. There's some grief happening here. There's some grief happening here. But that grief, remember that the indigenous have taught us around the world that grief is a portal, grief is an altered state, grief is a place where you stand between the realms. So it does feel like there is some grief here that may have happened. And so then you have the Eight of Swords. This is a moment to see your cage. This is a moment to see your cage and allow grief to free you. Inti Kana is saying, allow that to release the child within you. So there's the grief. And so the Two of Wands, the grief will brings about inner expansion, more spaciousness, deeper revelation, deeper knowing. And that gives you deeper vision and deeper possibility. You know, Inti Kana, she carries the sun. Okay. And sometimes she reminds us that we have to descend into our shadows. We have to descend into our shadows before lifting the staff of vision, before we truly come into our vision. Until we truly come into our visions, we have to lift, we have to go into the underworld. I think that that's one of the things about us being human, is that if we do not go into our unconscious and reveal what is there, we do that by engaging our inner child through art, through reading, through drawing, through Akashic record reading, through maybe imaginative play. Let me grab my water here. Ooh, I'm shaking the camera. So yeah, through our inner child is coming forward. We think about this blood moon in Pisces. This is the soul, the light of our soul, and it's awakening to the shadows within us. You know, Inti Kana is it's funny how we have the light and we have the dark. We have the yin and the yang, yin and the yang. I love how synchronous these cards can be. I love that. You know, so we have the solar child, Inti Kana, the one who carries the divine light. And with this is divine light that it doesn't cast judgment or even a shadow. So under the Pisces blood moon, the soul is awakening. And a lot of times that might be coming through heartbreak. You know, heartbreak, seeing the dark for what it is, the shadow for what it is. Seeing the sort of murkiness of things around us for what they are. And so when we talk about love, this is not a time of love and light. It's not a time of bypassing. This is not a time of bypassing pain. It means that we're illuminating the pain. The soul is learning not through being dazzled by the ego. You know, the ego can give us false light. You know, the ego can give us false light. Think about the underworld. Sometimes the ego can give us false light. It's as the Gnostics would have said, you know, people who, you know, more fundamental Christianity today is kind of like the false light. It's the false prophecy. It's the false light. It's very, It's guiding you to distrust your flesh. Intikana says that we get in touch with our body, right? We get in touch with our body. We get in touch with our heart. We are no longer dazzled by the ego because we see the shadow for what it is. We see the murkiness around us for the truth of what it is. And even though that brings about a lot of grief, it awakens our soul. Grief is a medicine. Grief is a beautiful, beautiful medicine. And so the blood moon pierces through the heart to show us where the wound is. And through the wound, we allow the divine light to enter. And so grief can really be an initiation. And so when we see the Two of Wands becomes this sort of tool to see beyond our imprisonment. It's like, are you going to keep circling the old cage? Are you going to keep circling back to the same things again and again and again? Or are you going to set your sights above that, on a horizon, lit by the divine light, lit by Intikana, right? So Intikana and the Two of Wands are saying that the light within you requires you to choose it actively, not just passively. Not someday, but now. And the thing about children is that they just do it. Children are great at improvisation. So this could be things like ecstatic dance. This could be things to be like stream of consciousness journaling. Maybe this week, go out on an art date. Just go somewhere where there's art and just be there. Don't think about why you're going there. Don't think about why you're going to do it. Just go somewhere where there's some art. Just go look at some art. You know, maybe go to your altar and literally just allow the moment to move you. Children are great at that. And that's one of the ways of moving through grief, through being able to be able to improvise. So the 9-9 is you standing with the world in your hands. You know, you're standing with the world in your hands. Being able to move through the pain, integrating the pain, the murkiness around you, sometimes what can feel like confusion and chaos. It's about choosing expansion over fear. You know, our minds, cognitive distortions, these sort of cognitive distortions, being trapped by our mind. Allowing, the past, this happened in the past, that happened in the past. And we move through that by engaging our inner child. How are you talking to yourself these days? Talking to yourself more kindly, more gently. Asking the small child, the small girl, the small boy, the small they, them, asking that child what it needs. Because also we have to remember, our culture doesn't teach us this all the time, especially living in the West, but children are also elders. They're also divine and smart and wise in their own right. And so we have to remember the inner child in us is divine, is knowledgeable, is intelligent. So those are our readings. If you would like a personal reading, you're welcome to reach out to me via any email, through my email. Again, I'm never going to approach anyone in their email and ask them for them to come in and, here's do you want to read? No. But if you would like your own personalized reading, just reach out. I'd be excited to help out. So thank you.